Hello everyone, so this is UPSC Mains 2021 GS paper 2, and today in this particular part we'll be discussing solution of question 1 to 4. So I wanted to discuss like 1 to 10, but the questions of GS paper 2 personally I feel is much tougher than GS paper 1. And let's go slow, man. There's so many things which I will tell you in this 1, 2, 3, 4, so many questions which has been asked in both pre and mains related to these areas. So let's go one by one. Let's go slow. First question, constitutional morality. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, I think this is the one which is a little bit more, not so straightforward. Let's put it this way. Second, third, and fourth, good questions, very good questions. All in all questions, all 20 questions of GS paper 2 are a very high level. But question number 1 is a little tricky. So constitutional morality is rooted in the Constitution itself and is founded on its essential facet. Explain the doctrine of constitutional morality with the help of relevant judicial decisions. So let's see here. This is much more clearer. Now here this term, now if you see different books, different videos, audios, whatever you want to see, you will get confused. For understanding constitutional morality, what you have to do is you have to have, or you need to know other two terms. One is public morality, other is called social morality. Public morality, social morality. Now, when you will do the comparison, then you will try to understand, or then you will understand what is constitutional morality per se, because there's no straightforward or fixed definition of constitutional morality. It is just like basic structure. Like there is no fixed definition of basic structure. More and more Supreme Court judgment comes and they add stuff to basic structure, right? The only meaning of basic structure which we deduce is that there are certain portions of our constitution which cannot be amended in any case because that will change the whole fabric. What is constitutional morality? And how will we separate public morality from constitutional morality, social morality from constitutional morality? More or less, in most of the scenarios, public morality and social morality, they overlap with constitutional morality. But what is constitutional morality? I will give you some examples, you will understand it. Just be with me. And you can always rewind the videos and listen to them again. So constitutional morality, basic meaning is adherence. Adherence, the word I'm saying here is adherence. Adherence to constitutional norms, attributes, and values. So whatever norms, whatever attributes are there in Constitution, if you're adhering to them, you're following constitutional morality. It is not explicitly mentioned. This term constitutional morality, it is not explicitly mentioned in Constitution, but you can see the various facets of Constitution again. There's so many things in our Constitution, like preamble. So it talks about liberty, equality, and fraternity. So that is a part of constitutional morality. Then you have your fundamental rights, which talks about political democracy. Again, that is one form of constitutional morality. When we talk about the second part here, relevant judicial decisions and the doctrine of constitutional morality with the help of relevant judicial decisions, then the thing will become much more clearer to you. So be with me. So these attributes, these preamble, fundamental rights, which talks about political democracy, which talks about protecting individual rights, then DPSP, which talks about social and economic democracy, all these are showing visions of constitutional makers and they are part of constitutional morality. Then FD, it is also talking about our duties. Now, here you have defined in certain terms what is constitutional morality. Now we have to come to the second part of this question, that is constitutional morality with the help of relevant judicial discussion. Second part will clear all your doubts related to this question. If you still have any doubt related to what is constitutional morality. So now here you will talk about various judgments. So you can talk about Sabrimala verdict. We'll talk about Sabrimala verdict later on also in one of the GS paper 2 question. So Sabrimala verdict. If you write like this now, this is fine, but if you want to get good marks, write the case name. What is Sabrimala verdict case name? Indian Young Lawyers Association versus State of Kerala. So what it did, what Sabrimala verdict did. And now here we'll talk about constitutional morality and its fight with social morality. That will help us in understanding constitutional morality in much better manner. So Sabrimala verdict, which is Indian Young Lawyers Association versus State of Kerala, it struck down. What it struck down? It banned, like earlier, the women who were in the age of menstruation, like 10 to 50 years, they were not allowed entry into Sabrimala temple because Lord Ayappan is there and it is said that he is a brahmachari. So this was social morality. So social morality was that women of particular age group, they were not allowed entry into the temple because of certain historical backgrounds. But constitutional morality went against social morality and which discriminated women based on biological reasons like menstruation. So here constitutional morality is saying in the Sabrimala verdict that no, you cannot allow or you cannot disallow women of certain age group from entering like Sabrimala temple. This is not done, dude. So that is what is the Sabrimala verdict is saying, and it is constitutional morality that no, there is right to equality. You have right to freedom of religion, but here right to equality will trump over freedom of religion. So here we'll talk about this verdict in detail later on also. You will see where, and there was one like this judgment, Sabrimala verdict, and Indian Young Lawyers Association. It was 4:1 judgment. 4:1 means four judges gave a verdict, one judge gave some said some other things, but again four overrides one, right? So that's why the four judges who gave their like whatever they said that was implemented, and they said that here the right to equality is a primary concern. Fine. So here constitutional morality is going against social morality. Social morality was not allowing women to attend, but constitutional morality says they can attend and they should attend. So this is one thing. Now maybe things are somewhat more clearer. Second thing is Nafteed Johar judgment. Nafteed Johar judgment. And hopefully you do remember these judgments, because sometimes in pre they will ask you directly these judgments. So Nafteed Johar judgment, what was happening in Nafteed Johar judgment? So it struck down certain portions of Section 377 of IPC. Section 377 of IPC, some portion was struck down. Many people feel like this whole section has gone. No, it has not gone. It is still there. There are certain portions of Section 377 of IPC which criminalize homosexuality. That portion has been removed. But there are other portions of Section 377 which protected women and children of certain like age group from, you don't know, like from forceful sexual activities, etc., etc. So that portion of Section 377 is still there. So hope you can understand what I'm trying to tell you. So here again, constitutional morality is saying that all people are equal. We cannot discriminate LGBTQ community. So constitutional morality is saying that we cannot discriminate these communities. But public morality was like, no man, whatever these guys are doing, they are doing wrong. आदमी हूँ आदमी से प्यार करता हूँ, this is not allowed according to public morality. But constitutional morality is going against public morality here. Then Keshwanand Bharti judgment. Keshwanand Bharti judgment. So what judgment we have talked about? Do remember the cases also? Navtesh Singh Johar versus Union of India. So the choice of whom to partner, the ability to find fulfillment in sexual intimacies, etc., etc. Just read it. I've just told you. So here you can again differentiate between public morality and constitutional morality. Now, Keshwanand Bharti case, we all know why it is very famous. I've even made a video on basic structure. You can have a look at it. Then you will understand that in basic structure, you just don't need to talk about Keshwanand Bharti. You need to talk about SGKMW, Shankari Prasad, Golaknath, Keshwanand, Minerva Mills, Soman Rao. So Keshwanand Bharti judgment, it also talks about basic structure, which talks about key attributes of constitutional morality. So these are some points which you will write in that question. Very good question again. It's not very easy for me to give you all these orders, but in exam, this question I think was one of the trickiest questions. And the issue with constitutional morality is, we have already discussed this earlier, that it is not clearly defined and hence subjected to different interpretations. But Supreme Court in its various judgments, they have played a crucial role in upholding the tenets of constitutional morality, and that's how you will conclude your answer. Because let's move on to the next question. Again, very good questions, man. Not at all straightforward questions. This was a tricky question, according to me. And now, this particular question is a factual question. I will tell you why. So if you see your GS paper 2 syllabus, there is judiciary in topic 6. They're talking about that thing. But here, they talk about the desirability of greater representation to women in higher judiciary. We do know that even if we have studied some basic facts, we do know it will promote SDG 5, gender equality, blah, blah, blah. But believe me, if you write only those points, you're not going to get good marks. Like you will get average marks, and it's all about average. If you're able to write 20 questions in an average manner, you will sail through the mains. But again, some questions, some answers has to be better than others. So what I'm trying to tell you here is this is very factual. Here you have to write so many factual data that you should be knowing that there has never been a female Chief Justice of India. Then you should be knowing that there are only 11 women Supreme Court judges up until now. From the time Supreme Court has been established in 1950, post-independent India we're talking about, there are only 11 Supreme Court judges in past 71 years. So all these things you need to know. This is telling you about the status of women in higher judiciary. So if you don't know these facts, very like if some people know some of these facts, it's good for them. If you have written these facts, awesome, man. So you will start with that. The greater representation to women in higher judiciary will go a long way in promoting SDG 5 too. If you remember SDG, try to include it anywhere and everywhere. That will enhance your answer. So first point or the first heading which you will make here is status. Status. What is the status of women in higher judiciary? And here you will give all these facts. No female CJI, 11 women, Supreme Court judges, all these things you have to talk about. And there's also one factual information. Again, if you have not written, don't worry about it. I don't think many people would have written these. So High Courts of Manipur. There are some High Courts like High Courts of Manipur. Then you have Meghalaya. Then you have Patna. Then Tripura, Uttarakhand. These High Courts, they do not have any female judge. Patna, Uttarakhand. So all these are factual information, not easy to remember. Even if you see this in Hindu or in Indian Express, you tend to discard these kind of things. But here, you need to write some of these facts. Then the next part, the question is not about the status. The question is about the desirability part. So you have to talk about what will be the impact if you have more female judges. So it will promote inclusive growth, obviously. Inclusive growth is a topic, if you remember, in your GS3, inclusive growth. Growth of all sections of society, leaving no one behind. So it will promote inclusive growth, it will promote gender empowerment, all these points we all know. But in exam, in pressure cooker like situations, we forget some stuff. Then it will help in fighting gender stereotypes. It will enhance legitimacy of courts. This point is important. How enhance? Sometimes what happens is there are some victims of sexual crimes and they fear going to courts. And sometimes male, and they are not very comfortable in front of male judges. So if there are female judges, it will enhance legitimacy of court. It will enhance greater public trust in judiciary. Will ensure now. But this point is very important. Will ensure diversity in or diversity of perspectives. How will you prove it? And one more thing, I was studying and I was my teacher. At that time, many of my sir used to say that if you're writing any point in mains, don't just write like this. You have to give some examples for some of the points. Like if you're saying that it will ensure if you have more representation of women in higher judiciary, it will ensure greater like ensure diversity of perspective. How will you prove this particular point? What are the examples? Do you have any example related to this? So here we have example of Justice Hindu Malhotra. This was actually very famous. This Sabrimala case was very famous. It was in news for almost 1-2 years. Still in news now. So you can talk about that. So like this is ma'am, her name is Justice Hindu Malhotra. So we have talked about the Sabrimala case, 4:1 judgment. Four judges, they said something, and this man said something else. He was like he, and her basic point, I'm just telling you what she said in this particular judgment. You can read what she said here. The basic meaning is you cannot always look and you cannot always search for rationality in religious affairs. Then if you think searching for rationality in religious affairs, there'll be so many issues. Even in like Islam, women don't go to mosque. So there are so many things, so many issues. She was talking about that. Don't like think about or don't always look for rationality in religious affairs. They are very intrinsic to people's way of life. So and until and unless the people are who are directly affected by it, they don't come to us. Don't invoke rationality in each and every affair, especially religious affairs. That was the basic thing which she was trying to say. So she was differing from the verdict which was given. 4:1. Four people, four judges were saying something else. Hindu Malhotra was saying something else. So this ensures diversity of perspective. Even though the four judges overruled Hindu Malhotra ma'am's whatever she was saying, but we have diversity of perspective. We now have one more explanation. We now have one more point to talk about when we are talking about Sabrimala verdict. So this is the desirability part. What will be the impact if you have female judges, more female judges? Then if you see, this is fine, desirability. Then if you want, you can even add what are the barriers. So if there are so less female representation, there has to be some barriers. Believe me, this is a 10 marker, so you don't have too many pages. So you can make like this. You can make a box like this. You can talk about barriers. There is lack of infrastructure. What is lack of infrastructure? There's some trial courts. In those trial courts, they don't have women toilets. There is gender stereotype also. Gender stereotyping is everywhere. You can use this anywhere in women-related issues. Then opaqueness. There is so-called opaqueness in collegial system, and you will write this so-called because you cannot say that this is opaque. You will say, or you can even say, according to some scholars, there is so-called opaqueness in collegial system, and judges are appointing judges. This is second ARC who said that India is the only country in the world where judges are appointing judges, collegial system. So that is also, in a way, or some way or the other, preventing women from entering higher judiciary. So then you can end this particular question by saying this: addressing all these issues, will go a long way in increasing representation of women in higher judiciary. So this is second question, and I think all these points, whatever we have is more than enough for writing a good answer. Let's go to the third question. Discuss or how have the recommendation of 14th Finance Commission enabled the states to improve their fiscal position. Remember, sometimes what happens when we see Finance Commission, we get like an exam, we feel like, oh my God, I have so many information on Finance Commission, Article 280, function, etc. What you have to understand here is they're talking about 14th Finance Commission first, so you don't have to fill your pages just by writing what is Finance Commission all about. You have to talk specifically about how 14th Finance Commission is enabling states to improve their fiscal position. So what are the things here you can talk about? You can just first give this basic definition. I'm just giving you some fodder. You don't have to write these things. I will tell you what are the important points which we have to focus. So you can talk about that. This is a constitutional body established under Article 280 by President. That's it. And then if you want, because they are talking about 14th Finance Commission per se, you can just make one small heading and you can just talk about functions. There are only 4 functions of Finance Commission which are enshrined in the Constitution. The rest all is blah blah blah. So you have to remember those 4 functions. You can just make a flowchart and directly come to the point that how 14th Finance Commission is enabling the states to improve their fiscal position. Right. So here in functions, in like even if you read Lakshmikant Constitution, you will see there are 4 functions. First is about distribution of taxes, the proceeds of taxes between center and state. This is the first point. Second point is about, I will show you the points, principle that should govern granting aid, what granting aid will be given to states. Third point is about measures to augment consolidated fund of state to supplement resources of panchayats and municipalities. And fourth is any other matter referred to by President. So let me show you those 4 functions. So these are the 4 functions. These are the only 4 functions which are there. You cannot create any other function. Don't do that. This is a constitutional body. In constitution only you find these functions. So these 4 functions you have to remember. Right. But again, the question is not about these functions. This is just a brief introduction which you're giving, and then you have to move on to the next part. That is, so yes, now we're talking about the actual part of the question. The actual part of the question is, what happens now when you're working also and when you're making videos also, it becomes really clumsy. So yes, sir, let's not deviate from the point and let's come to the point. So 14th Finance Commission, how it is enabling states to improve their fiscal position. Again, a question where you need to know these charts. And I think what has happened is this Finance Commission question is not that tough if you have seen the previous year questions, because they've already asked 11 Finance Commission, 12 Finance Commission, 13 Finance Commission, even 15 Finance Commission they have already asked. So 14th was there and they've asked 14th Finance Commission now. So what you have to talk about is, here we don't have to compare 14th with 15th. We have to compare 14th with 13th. 13th Finance Commission and 14th Finance Commission, how they are different from each other. That will help you in justifying your point that how 14th Finance Commission is enabling states to improve their fiscal position. We will be, sorry, let's take a pause. So before we talk about how 14th Finance Commission, and there are some students of mine who was telling me that, sir, we always watch your video in 0.75 because it speaks so fast. So I try to speak slow now. So I will speak slow now. So yes. So what you have to understand here is, before we do the comparative analysis and how the features of 14th Finance Commission will help state to improve their fiscal position, first let's try to talk about this point. Income distance. What is income distance? What do you understand by income distance? So the basic meaning here is difference between per capita GSDP. Per capita GSDP. Per capita GSDP of state and any state, like let's say Assam, and per capita GSDP of the state with the highest per capita income, let's say Goa. So they will compare, like Assam's per capita income, what is it, 80,000 per annum, and then they will compare it with Goa, which has the highest per capita GSDP. And since Assam's per capita GSDP is very less, so it will get more money. That is called income distance criteria. It has increased now. So you can understand here. So most of the people, I have seen so many answers, I have seen so many videos based on what they have made, and they have left so many points here. So let's go one by one. First thing, how 14th Finance Commission will improve states' fiscal position. So here we will talk about this chart. So earlier, there are 2 terms when you will read Finance Commission. There are 2 terms which you will come or which you will hear again and again. One is vertical devolution. Second is horizontal devolution. Vertical devolution means money divided between center and state. So this is vertical devolution. This chart is about vertical devolution. Earlier, out of 100 rupees, 100 rupee taxes, 32 rupees was going to states and rest 68 rupees was going to center. Now it will be 42, 58. So 42 rupees is going to states now So you can see so much increment has been done. So increase in devolution to states from divisible pool of taxes from 32% to 42%. And this will play a crucial role in strengthening fiscal position of states. So this is first point, and this is vertical devolution. Then the points which most of the people will not write, and you have to write and you should write, because these kind of questions will get repeated in some way or the other in UPSC or in some other PSC. So second point is income distance criteria. We have just discussed what is income distance. You can see it here. It has been increased from 47.5 to 50%. So that means the poorer states, they will get more resources, more money, and that will thereby strengthen the fiscal position of these states. So this is one point which you have to talk about. Then the third point is, you see population 2011. This was not there in 13th Finance Commission. They have increased it to 10%. So they are getting 10% weightage in 14th Finance Commission. So what will happen here? So this will help especially Bimaru states. I don't know whether you can, and I don't think you should use the term Bimaru. Bimaru state is an acronym which is given for Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and UP. Bimaru. So these states, they have very high fertility rates. So instead of using Bimaru term, you can use this whole thing, the population 2011 criteria, with states with high fertility rate, which are generally poorer, to get more resources, because now it is 50%, right? And it will help them in improving their fiscal position. Then the other point here is that states now have more untied funds. Earlier, center was giving some money, but they were saying that you have to use this in this particular scheme, and that was tied fund. But center is explicitly saying where they have to spend the money. But now states will have more untied funds at their disposal, and it will be free to deploy them in the manner they deem appropriate to their needs and concerns. So that is actually a good thing. Now, most of the people who write all these things, they will not write the criticism part, that there are some issues also with 14th Finance Commission. If you write the criticism part, your answer is almost complete, you will get good marks. So what is the criticism part here, 7-9? Criticism part here is fiscal discipline. You see here, there is one term, fiscal discipline. How much taxes states are collecting, etc., etc. So that fiscal discipline part, you see here, they have made it 0. So that means, again, this how if fiscal discipline part they are removing, in a way it will not help in states improving their fiscal position, because now earlier there was there that some, I will tell you, I'll just give you a basic example. There are some states when election comes, they will say that these areas or these people will not pay taxes, etc., etc. So they are garnering vote back, but in that process what is happening, their fiscal resources are decreasing. So if, and earlier there was an incentive that if you're doing good in that department, if you're collecting taxes properly, if you're not giving too many rebates, etc., so your fiscal discipline is good, and based on that you will get more money. But that thing has gone. So this is actually one of the criticism, that if you are removing fiscal discipline as a variable from 14th Finance Commission, it will in a way not help you in, or not help states in improving their fiscal position. The second criticism was, and according to states like Tamil Nadu, they suffered a lot under 14th Finance Commission. You don't have to write that. What you have to write is, according to some states, some scholars, this 14th Finance Commission and later on 15th Finance Commission as well, they are rewarding states with high population. So this is one criticism, rewarding states with high population. You have just seen the population 2011 criteria. So, but and then you will end it by, and there are some things which has been done in 15th Finance Commission, about which we can talk about later on. So what will be the ending of this answer? So you will say, in spite of all these criticism, 14th Finance Commission recommendations have played a crucial role in enabling states to improve their fiscal position. So this is it, question number 3. I'm going to discuss question number 4 as well. But should I discuss it? Let's discuss it. So let's discuss question number 4. That is also big, and there's so many questions related to that which have already been asked by UPSC earlier. So the question is about, to what extent, in your view, the Parliament is able to ensure accountability of executive in India. So we are talking about accountability of executive, a question which has been asked so many times by UPSC, prelims and mains. And I will not just bluff. I will show you the evidence. So let's see. So this part we have done. See this. So before we talk about the mains question that you see, so many questions you also have asked. Parliament exercises control over the Council of Ministers through what? So first thing that you have to understand is India has a parliamentary form of government. And whenever we teach students, we always tell them the difference between parliamentary and presidential form of government. So what is the difference? The difference is not that PM is the head in parliamentary and president is the head in presidential form of government. No, that is a consequence. The difference is in parliamentary form of government, executive is part of the legislature. Executive is part of legislature, responsible to it. In presidential form of government, executive is not part of legislature. It is not responsible to the legislature. So since executive, that means Modi sir, he is a part of Lok Sabha. It's not like he was elected separately. So he was a part of Lok Sabha. There was one election for legislature, and whoever has majority, they became the executive. And this parliament, these Lok Sabha, they exercise control over Council of Ministers through these things: adjournment motion, question, supplementary questions. So all of these are the answer. D is 1, 2, 3. This is the answer here. So various devices like question hour, discussions, adjournment motions, no confidence motion, etc. Now, what you have to understand is, then you talk about, and if you see that particular question, they're saying how they are ensuring accountability and whether they are able to ensure accountability or not. So again, there will be two parts here. First thing, how they are ensuring accountability. So you can talk about question hour, 0 hour. Question hour happens first. So let me show you something. Basic timing of this parliament is from 11 to 6. This is from 11 to 6. So the first hour is the question hour, 11 to 12, and then 12 to 1 is the 0. That is the most, like, it's not like it's always followed like this, but more often than not, this is the convention and this is how it is done. First hour is the question hour. So here they can ask start question, unstart question, short notice question, all these things. Start question requires oral answer, unstart requires written answer. Short notice question is there's a notice, 10 days time is given to the executive. So this is how Parliament is exercising control. This is one thing, question hour, 0 hour. Then you can talk about that calling attention motion. There are so many motions also, calling attention motion, adjournment motion. Generally, comparison has to be done between calling attention motion and adjournment motion, where they're talking about important matters. Like Manoj Jha sir, he talked about AES, acute encephalitis syndrome. So that thereby he's asking from the ministers what you are doing. Many people are dying, many child are dying in Bihar, what you are doing. So this is also a way of exercising accountability over executive. Then there is also one other motion, that is adjournment motion. So the difference between calling attention motion and adjournment motion is adjournment motion can only be introduced in Lok Sabha. Calling attention motion can be introduced in either of the houses. Then adjournment motion needs support of 15 members, but calling attention motion can be introduced individually. So these are some ways where and by which Parliament are exercising control over executive. Right? Then you can talk about no confidence motion, censure motion. So, and there was one question also in this adjournment motion asked by UPSC 22. So pause me right now and think what would be the answer here. So A is the answer. No confidence motion and censor motion. So again, no confidence motion when it is introduced. No reason has to be given. And opposition can introduce no confidence motion. And it is introduced against the whole Council of Ministers. And if it pass, and if Parliament is able to pass no confidence motion, then the ministers, they have to resign. Censor motion, it can be passed against an individual minister, and even if it is passed, Council of Ministers did not resign. So these are some points. These are recent no confidence motion. You can write these points. You don't need to explain it. I'm just giving you some points. I'm just showing you how many questions have been asked by UPSC earlier on these points. Fine. Apart from all these censure motion and no confidence motion, you can talk about these cut motion, like when budget is introduced. So every ministry is asking for some grant, some money, that is known as demand for grant. Demand for grant. And then cut motions are introduced. If the opposition and most of the people don't like the policy, they can reduce it to rupee 1. This is called policy cut motion. If they want to reduce it by a certain amount, this is economic cut motion. If they want to reduce it by only a token amount, that is called token cut motion, reduced by rupees 100. Pay attention to the word by rupees 100, to rupee 1, all these are important. So again, cut motion is also one way. Then you have parliamentary committees. In that you have standing and ad hoc committees. All these are ensuring accountability. So cut motion was introduced earlier as well. UPA government survived. Then these are some points where you are talking about uh, how Parliament is ensuring accountability. But it's not like everything is hunky-dory there. There are so many issues, man. There's so many issues. So what are the issues? I had some notes, handwritten notes. So I will show you. Let's see how much you can see here. Let's talk about the issues which are plaguing this. So, and do make notes like this. Topic 5 is the Parliament issues plaguing Parliament here. So here you don't need to see, if you can see issues plaguing Parliament. So see here, D point, frequent bypassing of committees. Generally, what happens when bills are introduced, they have to go to committees where expert people are there who look into the pros and cons of the bill. That is not happening here. And if that is not happening in a way, that is diluting the power of Parliament, frequent bypassing of committees. Then insufficient time and research support to examine bills, lack of calendar. So Parliament is held at the convenience of government. This is actually not very good thing. Even in Pakistan, countries like Pakistan, they have a fixed time when Parliament will happen, but that is not happening in our country. Then lack of recorded voting, you can talk about all these points as well. And these are some issues. Apart from all these issues, there are issues of lack of discipline, decorum, all these points are also there. And see here, parliamentary mechanism for scrutiny of regulators or executive, question hour discussions, DRSC, departmentally related standing committee, finance committee, ad hoc committees, all these points you can talk about here. Then, just a second, let me see if there are some other points which we can use from this notes. Parliamentary committees are there, you can talk about these parliamentary committees. How they play a role, how they maintain parliamentary oversight. Fine, and that's it, nothing more. We have done detailed discussion on that also. Okay, so in the end, after you have written the issues plaguing, then you can say that addressing these issues will go a long way in improving Parliament's control or in ensuring accountability of executive towards Parliament. That's it, and I think that would suffice. It's more than enough. Okay, so that's it for question 1 to 4. I will make another video where we discuss other questions from question 5 to 10. Let's see how many I can make. I will try to make it in a better manner. Whatever information I have, I will try to share it with you. Okay, thank you. Take care. Be blessed. Bye bye.